Hello, welcome back to another episode of One Man's Journey. My name is Christopher William, and I'm sitting right in the space between Father's Day and the summer solstice tomorrow. For some reason, I'm not quite sure what happened last weekend. I thought it was Father's Day. I'm just so not into the kind of the calendar thing. I looked it up and I thought for sure it was. I just don't have any connection to that anymore. You know, my daughter would certainly have let me know about Father's Day, and I'm not in contact with her right now, and so I'm kind of out of the loop. And then I start realizing, oops, I think I was a week off on Father's Day, but I'm glad I did it then because it was still an important topic to talk about. And so, yeah, personally, it's challenging to be in a position, where you start seeing things about Father's Day and you're not in contact with your children. And I know that all these days, Mother's Days, Father's Days, all these things are always challenging for a lot of us who, maybe have had children that we've lost or parents that we've lost. And all these sort of days that have this sort of collective celebration can be very challenging for those of us that are not really fully in that place, in connection with one or the other side of the equation. And so I send my love and heart out to those of you that have been in that position, are in that position. So I know what that feels like. It's a place for us to go in and just to keep feeling ourselves deeply, and what our deepest needs and desires are. And I think that's kind of where I want to come from today. The sense of the summer solstice to me has, obviously has this very powerful masculine energy to it. The sun has just this guidance and this strength and this power to it. And it also has a feminine quality to it as well. I think even in the wintertime, the sun has it can have a very feminine feel to it. So it's not just a masculine symbol. But there's something about the summer solstice and this power of the sun itself that has this feeling of father to it. And, one of the things that I have done a lot in my past has been trying to connect to more divine energies inside of myself, and really wanting to connect to more of this divine father type energy. And I think that can be exemplified in the solstice and in the sun. And so I think it does take some grappling with our relationship to our own fathers, and even our relationship to religion. If you've got more of a male-based religion, and of course you can have your own particular woundings and things around that are in need of to be felt around it. So I know everyone has their own relationship to when I say something like divine father, even if I'm talking about something like the divine. I know that can be very challenging, especially for men who are in very desperate and despairing times inside of themselves. And the thought of even there being a God or the divine, the universe, it somehow that gets sucked out of the space. And man, I've felt that so many times in my past, of the sense of literally something being sucked out of me, and that sort of ray of hope is just vanished. It's vanquished, and it's like oxygen, and it's hard to breathe, and without that feeling that there could be something, that light at the end of the tunnel sort of feeling. Whenever I was in those moments of despair and heaviness and darkness, it was a feeling of like having just a cloud shroud over me. And I can sense that it was covering over. Like I could feel that there was something beyond the clouds. At least I wanted to believe there was. And yet I think there was always something in me that knew that there is something beyond those clouds, that there is this eternal sun that shines. And I think that's probably part and parcel as to why we get it so despairing, because I think there is something deep in us that knows there is this place within us, that is eternal, that is glorious. And I don't think we're meant to live in that. I don't think we're meant to live in that all the time. I don't think that's a state, a natural state in which we're just inhabiting all the time. I think because we're human beings, we're going to ebb and flow around how we relate to it, how we feel it. I think it closes off and it opens up. But I think it's knowing that internal space, that internal energy, that consciousness or whatever is there, is what helps us move through these really challenging moments inside of us that I think for many have lasted for years. Some maybe it's just comes and goes for days or weeks or months. But there is something about this an eternal sense of love and care and compassion that exists within us. And even if it feels like you have to bring it outside of you, I do that. I've done that a lot, just to look to the heavens, to even externalize it, to feel that something is there with me, holding the space for whatever is going on inside of myself. And somehow just having that connection to it has provided me just that thin layer, of something that I can hold on to feel like I can move through this, that this is something that like this too shall pass kind of thing. And that's really hard to buy. It's really hard. That pill is a hard one to swallow when you're knee deep in something like that this too shall pass is, feels like, yeah, okay, whatever, man, 'cause especially if you've been in it for a long time. But I think there's something that wants to arise in that space. And I recently just wrote a piece about mission and purpose and value and worth that feels really attuned to, I think, what goes on for men. I've been doing a bit of reading and listening and watching videos and such, really wanting to tap into relate my own personal experience with that of other men, and really seeing a thread of similarity with things that I hear and read. And a lot of it comes down to the sense of worth, value, and adequacy. I think for me, there has been a deep sense of what is my worth in this world? What is my value? What am I doing here? What am I bringing to the world? And other than just maybe this job that I have, and even sometimes even raising a child, like I mentioned last time, that had some value and purpose and meaning to it. And then, like when I said, when she moved to Canada to be with her mother, those pillars, that structure, that foundation kind of got kicked out from underneath me. And I think I felt like I had lost my meaning and purpose. I was a teacher and that felt really good, but it wasn't the thing. It wasn't really in it for me. It wasn't really resonating deeply with that situation, even though there was goodness in it. And so I think there's this deep struggle to find what is my value in the world, what is my legacy, what is my power in this world. And I think that's where maybe a lot of men have that struggle. And, this can get uprooted when we're in relationships too. When we feel like maybe we're not bringing enough or not enough into the space with another person. And I know I've struggled with that mightily in my past relationships, especially when I've gone into more like sacred union type relationships. It's been challenging to feel like I'm meeting up, like there is this inner expectation or standard that we wind up putting upon ourselves. And maybe we absorb something externally from the outside world that we take in personally that we're trying to live up to. And we're constantly feeling like we can't live up to that. We can't possibly get to this particular level of whatever that expectation is, whether it's a good lover or husband or father or, provider or truth teller, or I don't know, the list can go on and on about what we can beat ourselves up over about in terms of what we don't like about ourselves or what we feel like we don't have value with. And that is an ongoing struggle. And it's, for me, I think I'm just starting to feel like I'm coming out of something for myself around how I've been relating to myself and how I feel like I've projected so much onto other people about expectations and things like that, that they were all coming from the inside. And so there was a sense inside of myself that I wanted more for myself. And that more wasn't so much about more money or more influence or more friends, more sex, more, that externalized thing, though those are always things that I do want more of. But that more, I think, was just this sense of well-being, that I actually give a shit about who I am as a human being and as a man. And that even though I may not be a large muscular guy, or I may not have this physical strength, and I'm really wanting to work on being more present to myself, being more confident, meaning that I just want to be in my truth, not a false confidence, but just a sense of being present to my truth and not being afraid to speak my ideas, speak my truth, speak my reality about something and my feelings. That feels alive to me. That's the more that I want inside of myself. And I want to feel more goodness from self to self, so that if something comes up externally in life that doesn't wind up crumbling me, it doesn't wind up, bring me down because something didn't work out externally, that I do have still a connection inside of myself from self to self and self to some other power. And the more that I can connect to that power and that sense of self-worth, the more that I can just start doing things like this. I have no idea what this is going to do, where it's going to go. Is it going to have legs? Is it going to have wings? I really don't know. But, the more I kept feeling myself, and the more I just started connecting and reading about other men and talking to other men, there's just this, I feel a connective tissue with the collective male psychology and spirituality and heart and emotion and mentality. And I really want to reach out, and I really want to connect, and I really want, that's another more that I'd like too, that more male connection, because I think there's something in it for me and in it for you and in it for us. And I know there's lots of that out there. There's lots of different places that people can turn to, for men's groups and all that. And I can certainly, curious about that for myself. And so I may stumble upon something here in Portugal. I might find something online. And yet at the same time, I felt like it was also important for me just to step out into my own power and my own care and my own compassion to reach out to other men and to just open my heart and open my mouth and open a camera and type on a keyboard and then see where that leads. And, I'm just going to keep doing that until it seems obvious that it's just not meant for me or whatever, something else shifts. But, I want to keep doing that because I just know, I know the feeling. I remember the feeling. I'm not healed from the feeling. I'm still have times where I'm going to hit a down spot, and I'm going to wind up having to re-listen to this to myself so I can hear myself speaking, so I have another angle to take in myself. I want to listen to other people to help move through. It's what helps me get through, and it's a community, even though the community is kind of virtual in that sense. I'm not really actually talking to anybody except for maybe one or two other people, but that's enough to feel like a connection. So if I can provide part of that connection for another man who's feeling like he's just alone in the world, then I feel like, man, that's an amazing service and purpose right there. That makes me feel really good. So, yeah. And so the main part here was that I just really wanted to address this issue of value and purpose and meaning for men. And I had done a quick little video this morning when I was walking, talking about how what we value is like a pillar for us, that there's something, the things that we care about, whether it's being a father or, providing for our family, or, trying to express a truth that you see in the world, or, having a sense of like power and goodness and strength and truth and all these things that, feels like that's your relationship to your own maleness and masculinity. And that there is what feels like has been an ongoing attack for many years around that. And certainly there has been this overarch into this sort of uber masculinity, we call it patriarchal and toxic masculinity and all this. So there is something that is true about that. There's been kind of a darker edge to that. But then clearly what's happened is that we've just kind of yanked it another direction. We've just pulled it this direction. And in that, something has rumbled in that pullback going this direction to being a bit more feminine and supposed to be more sensitive and more compassionate. And these are all great things to balance out that sort of over tilting toward the uber masculine without having any balance of a feminine. But if, again, you can't slap back. We're trying to reach it back. And I think that's what some of this pushback is. It's pushback from men, and I think it's also a despair for men. So either people are getting angry or they're becoming depressed. And I think that's a reaction to this sort of pullback this direction. So I think there's a lot going on, and it's trying to angle this thing back into something more centered. And I'm trying to find what that center is for myself. And I think I have tended to be more toward the feminine. I've tended to be more connected to women, more of a mama's boy kind of thing growing up. I had a fear of my father in so many ways, but yet also I had a deep respect and admiration for him. So there was that going on in my life, but I can say that I tended to tilt more toward the feminine side of my masculinity rather than the more masculine side of my masculinity, if that makes sense. And I know that's obvious, right? I don't have that sort of air about me, the deep voice, the strong muscles, and whoever you relate to that. I just have a different balance of testosterone and whatever. I'm not quite sure what that's all about, because I think we all live on this sort of spectrum of whatever you call this masculinity thing. But I'm wanting to find out what my own authentic expression of that masculine energy is. And it's, ultimately it's just being a human being and just being honest with what I feel. And I just want to be more present to myself and to be with other men. And I really want that. I really want to feel like there's something there that we can bond together on and lift each other up, teach each other, inspire each other, challenge each other, be there for each other in those difficult moments as well as the glorious moments, the triumphs and the tragedies, both. And I know there's a lot of that going on out there, and it's amazing. And I'm sure I'm going to continue to look for that for myself, because I think it's important for me to be a part of and not just be an island unto myself. So, yeah. So this feeling of value is really huge inside of me. And I think it's really big for other men. And I think if they get a chance to talk about what's important to them and what's missing, what they feel like is missing in their lives, I think the more a brotherhood can help to move and shift and, at least be there for someone, at least just to hold space for it. Not necessarily when we tell someone what's the right thing to do, but hold space for it and offer some suggestions, offer some anecdotal experiences that might help inspire and motivate. And I think we need each other, guys. We really do. We really need each other. And I think that women can help, but they're not men, and they don't relate to the world the same way we do. And there's so many women out there who just, have always appreciated when I talk about this, and they respond well to it. And And I think they recognize too, it's like they hope that people in their lives have other men to talk to, and so that they can come and just be in some sort of communal feeling and exchange back and forth. And that's really hard for men to do that. It's much easier for women to come together than it is for men to come together in some vulnerable space. And I do get that coming together really needs to be centered around something physical a lot of the times. It's not just about sitting around and talking, even though it's necessary, but I think there also needs to be something centered around something that has to do with our hands and our moving and whatnot, so that the conversation arises from that kind of camaraderie of purpose and managing something. It's even about maybe going on hikes and, like I said, building something or creating something or whatever that is. There really wants to be that sense of that kind of brotherhood that then allows for the space to go into the heart when needed. So I think that's the sun, that's the guiding light, that's the desire for me today on this sort of post-Father's Day, pre-solstice eve day, for wanting to move forward, wanting to turn the corner and really change something about what we can offer ourselves and the world. And I don't mean all of the world, it's just your own personal world. What kind of effect and value do you have in your own personal world, whether it's just you to a wife or a mate or a friend or a child or a parent or colleagues or whatever that is. I think we all have dynamic impacts, no matter who they are, no matter how many they are. We have value in this world, and it's really important for us to find our own relationship to our own value and hold that dear to ourselves, no matter what the circumstances are externally, that you can hold that through the storms, no matter what. So anyway, I hope that lands somewhere inside of you, and I'd love to hear your personal feelings about this topic and anything else that may be moving through you. I'd love to hear that in the comments below. And I also have an email address too that I will make sure to put as a link below, so that you can contact me if you feel like to do that privately. So anyway, so again, second happy Father's Day to those that are hearing this now, and happy solstice. And I hope that this is a turning point for all of us going forward in owning our power and our truth and our open hearts and our care for ourselves and others. So take care, and I'll hope to see you soon. Bye.